Welcome back to the conversation. I'm New At Tone. The conversation, we talk to different community leaders and talk about different things going on in the city of Brockton, the greater Brockton area. Here with a good friend of mine, Jeff Charnel. Jeff, just talk about your role and what you do for Northeastern Savings Bank.
Hey, Newbie, thank you, first of all, for having me. It's great to come and speak, not only on behalf of, the bank, but obviously the community that I've grown up in. A little bit of what we do. I mean, we are a local community bank. So we deal with a lot of local businesses, whether they're, restaurants, your gas station that you walk into, maybe even an insurance company in the area. Also, if you see some apartments going up in downtown area, we have a project down there as well. So, I mean, when you think of, being local, you think of being, pretty much the fabric of the community, which, I think that we play a little bit of a part in, with some of the businesses that we, help in the area.
I think you guys have been really a huge resource and asset to the community. I mean, you guys were originally Mutual Bank, but you guys merged into one.
Yeah, so we recently had a merger back in April with Northeastern Savings Bank. So we kept the Northeastern name. And the reason behind that is, the regionality of the name, showing that you're a real community bank, in the community. So, I think it's been a great endeavor for the bank, and I think it's been great overall for employees like me, and having a better reach, more resources. So I think a lot of that stuff is very, very positive, moving forward.
Yeah, you guys do a lot of lending in this city, which is awesome. Let's talk about some of the projects. You mentioned some projects that are going on in the city. What are some ones that you guys are helping out on?
Yeah, I mean, my boss is, a big advocate of, really lending locally, really being, in kind of the forefront of, being in, local areas, like a project we're doing in downtown Brockton, 44-unit apartment building. Again, trying to revitalize that area, as, some of the, stakeholders wanted, local government, even at the state level. So, I mean, we're just a part of everything that everyone's putting together. I mean, it's good to get some, state funding, but without private financing, it's very difficult to see these projects come to fruition.
And we've seen downtown. I mean, the last what's going on in Brockton is actually really cool. Especially in the downtown area. And you guys have, been a big part of that. So one of the reasons why I'm brought here is you guys are sponsoring the media workshop the new production is putting on. So you guys sponsor obviously bigger projects, but you guys sponsor small projects like the workshop, and you guys were at the sponsored a few NAACP events, the breakfast, so on and so forth, the inauguration. Yeah. Talk about the importance of that. I know you guys do the bigger projects, but the local ones are probably just as important. So the smaller ones, I should say.
So it's so funny you say that, Noob. I mean, I've always been an advocate, and I've said this in committee meetings. I mean, I say this all the time. If we're gonna do the big things, we have to start with the little things. I mean, you have to invest in the smaller businesses, because the smaller businesses become the medium businesses. The medium business become the sub-media, and it goes for that, right? So, and then they become a big business. There's stories about these little tiny companies that have grown to be 10, 15, 20, 30 million dollars. So again, these workshops and things that you bring to you brought this to me, obviously. These things can grow into a lot of things where they impact a lot of people in the region. So I'm 100% behind doing some of the smaller, intimate things in the city. I think it's par for the course. Some would say, you have to kind of be, you can't just, do the pretty glitz and glamour stuff. I mean, there's things that happen at the, at the small level, the middle level, and the bigger level. And again, we want to be a part of the smaller things, the middle things, and and some of the big things. And I think it's very positive, that, you're putting this on, for, a lot of people, in this region that, if it wasn't for you, these things wouldn't happen, which I think it's a shame,
Well, I think it's a partnership, just being able to work together and to do different things. So I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you and obviously the bank and everything you guys do for the community. One thing I think is so important, in just in terms of the generation who are in college right now and are going to be graduating college and going to the real world, is financial literacy. Mm-hmm. And do you think that in general that needs to be stressed more? What are you seeing just in terms of someone working in banking? Mm-hmm. Where do we need to go as a society in terms of financial literacy?
Financial literacy is something that is not taught in the classroom usually. There's some, quasi classes that give you kind of some, maybe some real world, maybe you go to a place and work. But simple things, balancing a checkbook, knowing what a debit card is, knowing what your credit score is, knowing how to obtain credit. I think that, there is definitely a lot of work that needs to be done. This is on all levels, right? So this is, you say high school, right? You got you got colleges that don't teach this. You have student athletes that are going to go make, north of $10-15 million that don't know what a checking account is. That's ridiculous. These things are very, for the most part, very simplistic. It's not meant to be, something that's cumbersome. But to someone that's seeing it for the first time because they've never been exposed to it, it can seem, daunting, and cumbersome and, a pain in this. And a checking account's a checking account to me, a debit card is something that you use. It's to access your funds, but how come, what are the banks doing, at, a younger age to get people more accustomed to these products and services, so when they do become adults, they're not, being, taken advantage of or scammed or, paying a exuberant amount of fees because they don't understand the product or it takes them a while. I think, there's always room for improvement. I think that I've definitely seen some headway in this sector in doing some financial literacy. Even some of the larger institutions are, getting behind, educating people more. But it's still, to me, it's still pretty poor, overall. I
think people are now more aware of what's going on, and it's funny. Just in terms of filmmaking and creating documentaries, it's so important. Just in terms of having good credit, just in terms of purchasing of equipment. You can't do a film without equipment.
Yeah,
you can't get equipment without credit. That's
we
huge.
Started. Luckily we've been friends for a very long time. So we started. I think you bought a couple of your first pieces of equipment financed by me
through
somehow.
credit,
through credit enhancements that I gave you at some point. And you've always understood kind of how important your credit is to your small business, and how that is your gateway to doing bigger film development, or being able to take a charter a flight and go and pick up some documentary stuff across the country or something like that. But I always say, it's great that we know each other, but why can't they be more people like us talking to people to make sure that they understand that your credit is as important as your small business, as important in anything in your life. You have to make sure that you have adequate credit to obtain things, and again, for a lot of the times is you have good credit, you pay half of what I would pay. So when you have bad credit, you pay more, and that can cut into your bottom line, revenues, and a lot of things. I can't stress enough how important. We've had this conversation how many times, we talk about it all the time.
But how about the question that if I'm a college student, well, it's a legitimate concern. How do I? It's like how do you get a job without experience? Well, you need to get experience first. So how do you? What should they be doing now to help establish good credit? You know, when they're not purchasing a college, they're not purchasing huge things. What should they be doing now?
I mean, I think they should just be, you know, like for a college student that's not purchasing things, I think it's just like anything in life, right? So it's just being mindful that it's there, you know, that you will need to utilize it one day and start to educate yourself on that, right? There's a million tools online you can go and figure out how to, you know, maximize credit, how to build good credit, you know, going out and getting a secured credit card where you back that balance. I just think it's just like, you know, you walking into a classroom and wanting to be educated. Credit is very similar to that. I mean, and again, you know, it's hard to say this sometimes, but it's not rocket science. I mean, the credit score is broken by numbers, right? So, you know, low sixes is probably not the best. 800s are probably, you know, relatively very, very good in the realm. It's broken up in colors, green, yellow, and red. It's broken up in terminology of fair, good, and excellent. I mean, who's trying to be fooled here? I mean, this is like, and people act like this is the most daunting thing in the world. And look at the simplistic, look how simple it is. You know, it's a score, it's colors. You know, I mean, I feel like, you know, if you, I mean, I have a niece, and she's probably one of the smartest girls I've ever encountered. And I feel like she'll get it. She'll be like, oh, I know my credit score. I know red, yellow, green, fair, good, and I know how to count. So, I mean, I just think that, but again,
just being having the access to the knowledge though is important.
Yeah, the access to the knowledge, but again, you have to want, like, it's like a lot of things in life, even going to college and even what you do with your documentaries and stuff. You have to want it to go find it, right? Like a lot of these things, unfortunately, people are not going to just educate you on, you know, immediately. So you have to want to go find those knowledges. There's a million courses out there. There's banks that do, you know, certain things when it comes to credit. There's stuff at the state level they do with stuff around credit. I mean, there's local chambers that educate people on this stuff. And the local banks. I mean, if you go into a bank, a local bank like ours, and you know you want to speak to someone, I mean, for the most part, that person you're sitting down with is usually pretty knowledgeable when it comes to, you know, credit and credit enhancements, and, you know, maybe what you can do, what you can't do. So I mean, if you don't ask, you won't know. So if you don't know to ask, I mean, you should want to. I mean, online today is accessible by a smartphone. So why are we acting like, you know, I mean, you can go on YouTube and, you know, see a video on, you know, how to access your credit. Most people don't know that they get one free credit report every year through annualcreditreport.com, and that's sponsored by the 3 credit bureaus. You don't get scores, but you get the information. But again, you have to, I mean, that's a simple click of a button, you know.
So just to wrap up here, where's the location in the Brockton area? If people want to, you know, get some more information about your bank.
I mean, yeah, so we have 2 locations.
Yep.
We're on Belmont Street, 77 Belmont Street in Brockton. That's typically where I am on Fridays. And we have a office on Crescent Street, right next to the Shaws, and McDonald's on the east side of Brockton. And again, you know, we have, you know, a lot of colleagues that are pretty well versed, and, you know, and I feel like, you know, we're here to help the community, but the community has to help us with letting us know what their needs are too. So, you know, if they want, you know, us to do some stuff around credit, you know, let's get some people in the community to, you know, champion it so we can then put it together. Maybe that could be the next thing, maybe, huh?
Yeah, maybe it's the next documentary or something. Jeff, Warren, appreciate you for coming on. Appreciate everything you do for the community.
Thank you.
And you know, definitely you're more than welcome to come on the podcast whenever you want. So that's it for the conversation. Once again, the media workshop is going to be February 8th at 11 o'clock, 11 to 2 at the Brockton Main Branch Library. So definitely come out. It's a free event. Northeastern Savings Bank is sponsoring it. So I just want to thank you, Jeff, and
Thank you.
hopefully we'll see you again soon.